welcome to the third episode of Drinks on Monday. Mike Vanderbilt here, along with
Pat O'Sullivan.
Dan Lynch.
Let's get right into it, guys. Pat, how was your weekend?
My weekend was okay. What did I do? I went out to Buffalo Wild Wings in Naperville on Friday, and I got stalked by some crazy fucking Naperville person who didn't like my driving. The person followed me around for like a mile and a half, like tailgating me in traffic. And then when I finally parked, he parked about half a block behind me and watched me get out of my car and then drove by very fast. So the moral of the story is people from Naperville are crazy. How was your weekend, Mike?
Oh, my weekend was just fine. I replaced the clutch in the TR6 on Saturday with some British sports car. Get a real live Brit to help you out with it. Some guy out in Downers Grove, and he had a couple cool cars.
Downers Grove.
Had a couple cool cars. Had an old '67 Mini Cooper, one of the original ones, and had a '75 TR6 that he had completely overhauled. That I parked mine next to it, and I looked silly next to his. And then Sunday night, I played a rock and roll show with the Modern Day Rippers up in Milwaukee at the Down and Over Pub with some really good bands.
Did they serve Blatz?
Oh, I forgot to get Blatz. I got Schlitz.
Oh.
But I tipped the bartender $15 up front, so I didn't pay for anything for the whole night.
Oh.
Dan, how about you?
Football season's in full blossom. I watched the Bears game yesterday.
Is the season over? That's what I hear on Facebook. I hear it's all over. The season's over and the franchise is done.
It's over for that one guy.
Ray Rice, for sure. It was the first game of the season. The Bears' offense looked pretty pedestrian, very predictable. The defense didn't come to play. We lost a winnable game to Buffalo, but I had a good time.
Where'd you watch the game at?
Local watering hole in Blue Island called Chris's Northside.
Nice.
They have, that's where we're planting ourselves this season. $2 Cuervo Silvers.
I used to get to go when I delivered pizzas at Mama's on Vermont Division. My boss would always send me there to get to-go care packages from there. You know, I think our one of our sheriff buddies, his family owns that place.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
At all.
Oldest liquor license in Blue Island.
Wow. Okay. So you're going historic.
I have a laundry list of requirements to watch a game at these bars, and this one fills about 75% of them.
What's on this laundry list?
HD, have to be able to sit at the bar, have to have free food.
And it's right next to the park, so after you get done playing football, you can go and watch it.
Wi-Fi is a plus. Red Zone is a plus. Has to be close enough to the house. Have to have some sort of drink specials. It fulfills most of them. Doesn't have Wi-Fi, but I wasn't watching the game and the Red Zone at this one, so we'll see.
Is that across the street from the place that has the really big? They have the sign in the window that they have a really big burger. Nick Fatsman?
No,
Nick Fatsman.
It's on the same side of the street, isn't it?
It's Nick's Fat Man is gone. It was purchased by another person who changed the bar.
Oh, okay.
So it's across the street from there, but it's right next to United Liquors, which used to be called Miska's.
Oh.
I remember hanging. I'll always remember Miska's because when we were in our 20s, like 22, 23, they must have found a storage shed of Pabst Blue Ribbon underneath the store because you could go in and buy a 12-pack for
$4. $3.99.
$3.99. So instead of getting a case of beer for you and your friends, all your friends would just walk out with a 12-pack of beer.
And it was across from the KFC, which they turned into like a check and go or something.
It's called Title Max, and after watching Breaking Bad and talking to people, I think it is a money laundering operation.
For who? The Blue Island Cartel?
Mafia, yeah.
Organized crime. They could funnel money into these places because how do you it's a loan place.
Yeah.
So,
any place with vending machines, like that is how the mafia works in modern day. That's how it works now. Any place when you ever go into a bar where there's video games or there's pool tables that you have to pay for, there's no way to keep track how many people are pumping quarters into those machines. So that's how it really works these days. It's not stealing cigarettes off the back of trucks or importing Canadian whiskey.
First off, the mafia does not exist.
I'm sorry, exactly.
Organized crime.
Organized crime.
But you know what? Those loan places always crack me up when they were obviously a restaurant beforehand.
Well, yeah, like the KFC.
It was obviously a Taco Bell or a Checkers.
They're buying up cheap property, and every time I see one be turned into a Title Max, a piece of me cries because I know it'll never be turned back into
A KFC.
a 7-Eleven, a KFC, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to get right into this, guys. Be right back.
On the settlers, the new drunk drivers have hoisted the flag. We are with you in your anger.
And we're back. Of course, the name of the show is Drinks on Mondays, so we are enjoying a few cocktails here. Dan Lynch supplied the booze today. Dan, what did you bring us?
I brought New Amsterdam vodka, $9.99 for a fifth, and by that price,
getting cheap on us.
by that price point, you might realize that we skewed towards the cheaper side of vodka. But I wanted to bring this to the podcast so that we can kind of see why I like this. So I'm drinking vodka with just some ice. I find it to be very smooth. So I just drink it on the run.
As Dan gestures wildly with his hand, for those of you not...
For lack
Those not watching the streaming on YouTube. I made Pat a gimlet, a vodka gimlet.
I can't do liquor and water. I'm sorry. As much as I love booze, like I've tried doing the whole like scotch and water thing at the bar, or whiskey and water. It doesn't cut right with me.
I've watched you.
I'm low class.
I've watched you do old style and a shot of Jack until you couldn't fucking stand it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And
Well,
I'll drink the shit piss warm.
The last I checked, Jack Daniels is just vodka or just whiskey.
I know, but I can't mix like when the for whatever reason the texture. It's just a fucking weird idiosyncratic, weird fucking pedo thing. I can't mix booze and water. Booze and water it's not palatable to me. That's why I'll drink it warm. I'll drink it out of the fucking bottle, and I know you see me do that a lot.
Would you rather me just poured you a warm glass of vodka?
Honestly, yes.
Okay.
I swear to God, it's just
I used to work.
one of the quirks of being me.
I used to work with a guy who, most people like Patron shots chilled, and he would ask them. He would not only ask them not to chill it, but he would tell them put it in the microwave. And they'd laugh, and he goes, "No, I'm not kidding. You could put that in the microwave. That's how I want to drink my."
I'm not that weird. I'm not opposed to chilled booze. I just don't like ice in my booze because then it gets watery, and then it's like.
Oh, that makes it easier to drink.
No, it doesn't for me for whatever reason.
I mean, New Amsterdam came about out of necessity. I think I was here, and we didn't have very many beers, but we had a bottle of New Amsterdam. So we drank the bottle and then we washed it with the beer, as opposed to drinking a beer and then having a shot.
I made myself a vodka martini with the New Amsterdam, also known as a kangaroo. A lot of people don't know that. The vodka martini didn't come around until 1950 in cocktail manuals because vodka was a fairly new spirit behind bars. So bartenders didn't know what to do with it, so they started making gin cocktails with vodka instead. And nobody knows why the name Kangaroo became synonymous with the vodka martini, but the Orange Blossom was a gin and orange juice drink that became the screwdriver.
Where does vodka sit on your liquor hierarchy? Like, I'm primarily whiskey, and then I like doing the Captain Morgan, and then I'll do tequila, and vodka it's kind of lower, but only because I get a different kind of fucked up on vodka. This is something I said when I came in over here tonight, is that I haven't been drinking vodka for most of my youth. So, like, my body does not have a natural tendency to this shit. Like, I'm starting to slur my fucking words already. Like, vodka to Pato is like smallpox to the Indians. Like, it just fucking comes out of nowhere, and I haven't been drinking it for years. I have no fucking...
Or we pour you just a big glass of it.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Thanks, Freddie.
But, like, where do you guys... Where does vodka sit with you? Like, what's your history with vodka?
Before I drank beer, I drank vodka. Dimitri was, I think, $5.99 a fifth. And when you don't know what good vodka is, the Rock Gut is just as good.
Yeah, yeah.
I like whiskey first. Whiskey, bourbon, anything brown.
Bourbons, rye, like
Bourbon,
Jack,
rye, anything. Jack Daniels, I don't know. I'm not into it.
Canadian
It's
blended whiskey.
Canadian Club is my
Club's good.
favorite. Yeah.
Jack Daniels make me look an ass.
And the only reason I got into Canadian Club was
Maker's
because
Mark.
that's what Don Draper drank, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna give it a shot."
What is your bottom? What is the last thing that you want to fucking put in your body?
Gin.
Yes.
See, I like it always seems to be gin or tequila
Well,
for people.
tequila, really?
Oh, I hear the tequila a lot.
Oh.
I'll happily drink a Tom Collins, but drinking anything else where the gin comes closer to the surface.
See, I
No
like
bueno.
I like a classic gin martini. Like I can't think of one thing that I wouldn't have. Oh, I haven't had Southern Comfort in many a years.
Southern Comfort is a
Ooh.
delicious cordial.
You know, I had a bad hot. I was just talking to a coworker about this tonight. I had a bad hot tub experience when I was like 20 with a bottle of Southern Comfort. I was at a party in Oak Forest, drank a bottle of Southern Comfort in the hot tub, and was sick for days. And ever since then, even the smell of it will make me ill. But I would be willing, for the sake of this podcast, next in 2 weeks from now, to bring a bottle of SoCo to the table
Southern
and
Comfort.
revisit that beast.
Southern Comfort was one of my first loves when it came to spirits because when you first start drinking, you're not drinking Jack on the Rocks. You're not drinking martinis.
You're drinking an RC bottle, half of RC, half of Captain Morgan.
Yeah, so like Southern Comfort was sweet, but it
Mixes-
still had the bite.
Mixes real nice with Coke and Sprite.
And the SoCo lime shot was just
Yeah.
about due.
One of the most poorly made shots, though. If you,
It
I've had
can
more-
be done right. It can
yeah,
be done
it can
right.
be done right, but I've had so many bad ones that I don't even bother with them.
I think that's more to Southern Comfort. I used to bring everybody back to my apartment and start making Southern Comfort Manhattans at 3 o'clock in the morning. That is a fantastic idea. Let me tell you right there.
How much was it?
There was one. There was one girl. I blacked out. During it.
This is at zero. I'll get you in the
So
morning.
I
you
started-
repressed the memory. You
started.
You didn't black out. You repressed the memory.
No, it was.
all right, guys. Let's not go down our deep dark hallways.
It was good. It was good. Boston. It was Boston's second record, and Southern Comfort Manhattans at 2 in the morning on a Sunday. That's how Mike Vanderbilt did it in the 20s.
Two left
All right, guys,
turns.
we're getting a little
Couldn't
loud.
get anything right at that point.
Oh,
You didn't put on the first record, and you're drinking Southern
Boston's second album is not the sophomore slump. It's Feeling Satisfied. That's where it's at, man. That is the Boston tune.
Most people say Smirnoff is their go-to vodka, but Smirnoff is $11.99 where this is $9.99.
We had Stoli in my house growing up, so that's what I used to always. If I ever,
The Stoli is quite a bit more expensive.
well, that's how the O'Sullivans roll. We're fucking ballers. So I would drink Stoli, and then my mom kept her own Absolute for like when the guests came over. So like those were the two that I'm the most familiar with.
I'm not a big fan of Absolute. I would actually prefer Smirnoff over it.
I don't like Grey Goose, but I love Kettle One.
Absolute Kettle One's good.
I agree with you.
Kettle One is just my if I'm at a bar and I know it's cool to be real trendy and like go for these craft distilled liquors, but most of the places I hang out have the big ones: Absolute, Jack Daniels, Kettle One. Kettle One, I know they're going to have, and it's going to be a good. Like if I'm ordering vodka, it's usually martinis, so or Kangaroo.
Tito's is coming on strong too, and
Free.
I enjoy it.
It's good, but to be fair, I've never really had like a vodka. All kind of tastes the same. to
It's
me.
supposed to taste the same. If you walk down the vodka aisle in a liquor store, you're going to notice some of the prettiest bottles imaginable, because vodka doesn't have a taste to it. It's neutral in both taste and smell, and the only way that they can get you to buy theirs instead of the one you're going for is by trickery. It's marketing.
That is why it is
Like the Crystal Head Skull.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost $100 for that vodka.
I've drank a couple of those skulls in my day.
I've seen one with the fire extinguisher.
They come with accessories now?
I had a Van Gogh martini at Maple Tree, and that was rather delicious.
What was in a Van Gogh?
It was just Van Gogh vodka and whatever type of vermouth they used. And they did. I couldn't.
It's always Rossi. That's like the go-to vermouth. I'm sure there's some fancy pants out there that's gonna, if they listen and actually feel like writing it, is gonna tell me that there's a million vermouths that I'm not listening.
You know,
to.
all the time that I've spent kicking around BI, I have never once been to Maple Tree.
I've never been there either, and it's been on my list for years.
We should do a live podcast.
It's
from
Blue
there.
Island's fine dining.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard so many. I've never heard a negative thing about that place.
It's good food. It's
been on my
craft
agenda for
beer.
years, but working in the industry, I like to go out. If I'm going out to eat, it's on a Monday sometimes. They're closed on Mondays.
You know what I will say is overrated, though, and I don't even know if it's there anymore, is Mario's Tacos.
It's still there. My parents like it.
Oh, Pablo's, right by where we all used to live.
Pablo's is way too expensive.
It's
for
too
what-
expensive. It is.
Too expensive for Dan Lynch.
He just brought over a $9.99 bottle of vodka, and we've been talking about it for 15
I will
minutes.
spring for the
a
fucking
burrito at
tortoise.
Chipotle is only $6. A burrito at Pablo's is $10. Why is there so much? Why is it so expensive?
It's good.
Burrito Station's better.
I know. Hey,
There's
well,
a million
no.
things better than Pablo's.
Hold on. This is a legitimate discussion. So there's the Burrito Station like tier of Mexican food, which is like total American Beverly Mexican food. And then there's Pablo's Tacos, where this is what it comes down to. When you go to like a taco place and you say, "Give me a taco with everything," when you go to Pablo's, you get onions and cilantro. That's it. When you go to Burrito Station, you get lettuce, you get cheese, you get sour cream, you get tomatoes. That's American shit. Mexican shit is the onions and cilantro, okay? So, like, Pablo's is in the fucking Mexican tier, and Burrito Station is in the American tier. Burrito Station is the best, I would say, out of all of them, because I'm sorry, I'm American. But, like, when it comes to, like, the fucking...
You grew up 3 houses away from Burrito.
Well,
You
yeah.
grew up 3 houses away from El Gallo. You'd be like, El Gallo's a shit.
No, I live 3 houses away from
If
Nogales.
Thad O'Sullivan grew up 3 houses down from an outhouse, that would be where it would be.
Wait a minute.
Drink your vodka, Pat.
I'm pointing at Dan right now because he's the one that said it. I had nothing to do with it.
How? Nah, no. You know what? No.
We're both 300-pound men.
I was gonna say.
I'm
I'm
gonna break my chair.
I'm gonna retort to
I'm
that.
shoving it at IKEA then.
I'm gonna retort to that. Fucking respond to that comment in the closing. I'm gonna wait till I get 4 more cocktails in, and then it's fucking coming out. But we're gonna fucking.
Well, guys, what do you say? We get closer and closer to that 4 more cocktails. We take a break. We're going to talk about some more stuff. We're going to talk about all the stuff you didn't think needed to be talked about.
All right.
We'll be right back.
You can torture me with Donnie and Marie. You can play some Barry Manilow. Or you can play some schlock like New Kids on the Block. Or any Village People song you know. Or play Vanilla Ice. Hey, you could play them twice. And you can play the Bee Gees any day. But Mr. DJ, please, I'm begging on my knees. I just can't take no more of Billy Ray. Don't play that song, that achy breaky song, the most annoying song I know. And if you play that song...
And we're back. I don't know if you noticed this over the past couple of years, but country music is huge, and everybody seems to love it. Why?
Why? Why do people like country music? Because it's safe and because it tells a story. It's kind of like the de facto, I go to Moraine Valley, and if you were to like grab any girl from Moraine Valley in any class and say, "What do you listen to?" They listen to B96 club music and they listen to country music.
Top 40 music.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So it's
What
But it's the same-
What options are
It's
there?
one girl who listens to both of those styles of music.
yeah.
It's in the old days, country music was always very
I got into country music because I used to repo cars. I think, were we living together at the time, or right before you
Right
guys?
before
Okay.
we moved in.
So I was repoing cars, and the guy that I repo cars with would only listen to country music. And this was like the Toby Keith, Dixie Chicks, Kenny Chesney era. So every night I would be out stealing cars, listening to US 99. And that was my introduction to country music. But what was interesting when we decided to do this segment about country music was that a lot of bands have like that country music. Not only is it okay, it's a genre. There's a radio station for it. When you're in Chicago, there's US 99. That's what we have. You go to. I spent some time in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and places out east.
There's like 10.
Yes, exactly. And just like in Chicago, like there's like how many top 40 stations are there?
Every single one.
Exactly.
If it ain't top 40 from today, it's top 40 from 10, 15 years ago.
But what's interesting is that like this is Chicago. This is the third largest urban metropolitan area in the fucking United States, and yet we still have a huge country music base. There's something about country music that goes beyond whether or not you live on a fucking farmhouse, and that kind of draws people in. And then what we did is we kind of made a playlist that I'm sure will be posted somewhere that people can follow and add to and everything. But when we started making this playlist, I started realizing that like a lot of bands at least have that country music song. And I kind of avoided like, Liz Phair has country music. Local H has a country song. The only one that I included on the playlist was Hot Dog by Led Zeppelin.
I was so happy
because that is so fucking enormously good. Like, they get that so spot on.
It's great. It's a great tune.
It is.
I heard it on Y107.9's like Super Sounds of the 70s weekend, and when they got to H, they played Hot Dog. I was like, who is this? And
That's fucking Led Zeppelin.
I always remember the DJ always said, Led Zeppelin's first and only foray into country music.
And they nail it. So that was the only
But
one.
they've been stealing from American blues artists for years, so stealing from American country artists was nothing new for them.
Really, when you think about it, like, okay, so who's that Australian guy that's married to Nicole Kidman?
And I have a song by him, Keith Urban.
So outside of that, though, like, and there's a few stragglers, but for the most part, country music is the American art form. That is what we lay claim to. Rock and roll, okay, the Brits will argue about that. All that other shit, but country music is the modern American music art form. Whether or not people in Chicago can appreciate it or not, I think us all being music lovers, we can all kind of throw our hats in of what we dig and what we don't, whatever.
I mean, I think I had a negative stigma associated with country music that recently Spotify has helped me relinquish.
Yes.
So not every song is depressing and about a girl leaving you. And
it's about partying and fucking and like,
exactly.
Yes.
If you look at Spotify's top 100 country music, I would say 50% of them directly reference partying, beer, boozing in the title.
On the weekend, because
they love the weekend. It's like low-rent Springsteen.
Yes.
I mean, Lady Antebellum has a song Bartender. I mean, it's like, okay, it's about drinking and knowing your bartender. It's
about white people problems.
It's right.
White people issues.
It broadened my horizons a little bit when I seen that, and I was like, well, let me just see this one.
I can remember a time in pop culture, very specifically, when if you asked somebody what kind of music they listened to, they would say, I listen to everything
except rap and country.
And here's the thing. I always thought rap was fucking cool because I went to an all-black grammar school, and my best friend went to Clissold. So, like, the rap thing never factored into it. I always knew that there was good rap shit out there, okay? But country, I held out on for a little bit, all right? And now I can't even say that. I can't even say that I don't listen to rap and country.
My first introduction to country music, my mom went through a brief
My mom did too. Yeah.
country music phase in 1991, 1992.
It was probably the same.
I guarantee it was the same. I'll tell you why. And I asked my mom, I says, how did this happen? Like, why did you used to like the Raspberries and Rick Springfield, and now you're listening to country music? She says, I was going through the stations, and there was a good tune that was on there, and I listened to it. If you look at the top 40 from 1991, 1992, Color Me Bad, CNC Music Factory, Boyz II Men, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, then Madonna got weird with the sex book and everything. All that music that your mom would have been listening to was gone. It was this new generation. It was rap, it was hip-hop, it was grunge. So country music was the new popular music, and it was songs about girls, songs about partying.
Friends in low places, and
They all had mullets.
achy breaky hearts.
Boot Scootin' Boogie.
My mom was listening to a lot of Melissa Etheridge. I don't know.
That's kind of country.
Yeah.
A
yeah.
little bit.
I still dig Melissa Etheridge to this day.
But that's where I started hearing country, and I still give her guff for it about her brief country phase. But now it's funny, you listen to what I noticed about when we started to put together this playlist, they play a lot of country on the overhead at work, was that the songs now, the modern country that's on US 99 now, does not sound like country music.
Well,
the male singers have a twang in their voice. They might throw a fiddle at the end of the tune, but that Long Hot Summer you were talking about Keith Urban, might as well be a Rick Springfield too.
What was interesting about this playlist that we made, and by the way, so we made a Spotify playlist, and we're going to post it in the show notes, and it's going to be open source. If you want to add anything to it, please add whatever you want to it. If you want to follow it, whatever, that's cool too. So what we did is we made the Spotify playlist. We all added songs to it. One of the first songs that I added was "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" by Shania Twain, and this song has special significance because in the first Romero's practice in my garage with me and Mike Vanderbilt showed me how to play this song, and we were like 90% sure that this is the song that we were going to cover. So I just like to say for the Mike Vanderbilt knew how to play this song in the fucking first place. But if you go back and you listen to this song now, Shania Twain was like huge, right?
Right.
And it's because she married Mutt Lange, who was the fucking producer for AC/DC and all that shit. It's not a country song.
Mutt Lange.
It might as well be top 40. I mean, and what was interesting about this song was that it was the first time that I remember realizing that they did different versions of different songs for different radio stations. Because if you listen to "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," like the version that we have on this playlist, there's like pistol shots, like sound effects. Man, you know what I mean? Like during the chorus, but that's it. Other than that, it could be top 40.
The Shania Twain record's funny because I was working at Camelot Music 1997 when that record was just hitting. Like before that, Shania Twain was straight up country artist. Her big hit was "Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under?" You know, and then Mutt Lange came in, and Mutt Lange's smart guy, but they haven't shown a recent picture of him in 20 years.
Oh, he's the ugliest.
He's got to be a mess. He knows how to produce. He produced "Heartbeat City" by the Cars, "Pyromania" by Def Leppard, AC/DC. He took Shania Twain, and that was his protege, and made that record. I mean, I'm not saying Shania Twain is not talented. She didn't sing everything on that record, but that's a Mutt Lange record all the way through. And he knew we can cross this over. And that was still at that time when people weren't listening to country music, but people liked that Shania Twain record, and they also liked the Dixie Chicks.
And that's something I'm going to say for the record right now. Anyone out there pursuing art in any fashion, the only way you're going to succeed is when you cross genres. If you look at Shania Twain, if you look at
Nelly and Tim McGraw,
yeah. Once they start doing different versions of songs for different radio stations, that is when that song is going to hit gold. That is when they're going to start making money from the ASCAP rights and shit like that. You know, Dan Lynch.
I enjoyed Taylor Swift. I enjoyed the fact that you could hear the same song on two different radio stations, and they were both.
the fiddle's higher in the US 99.
Yeah, it's just the background music. The one that you heard on the mix had a more guitar driven.
The heavy distorted guitar.
I find that so fascinating, though.
It's disingenuous to me
that they remix songs for like the adult, and that's something that I learned from the Semisonic
book.
Is that they do this is something they legitimately do in music. Is that they'll do like, okay, there'll be horns in this version. There won't be horns in that. There'll be like a half tempo like sped up like drum track for this.
On the same station, you could hear the John Legend song, "All of Me," in two different, one with the faster beat, and one with the slower beat, and just the piano. And I prefer the slower beat than I do the faster one.
I remember when Sugar Ray Fly, they had the version with Supercat and the version without Supercat toasting over the song, and that made me mad because I like the version with Supercat.
Of course,
Supercat was awesome.
Of course. This isn't even. Why are we even wasting time talking about this?
Well, let's move on. We all agree the Supercat version of Fly is better.
Sugar Ray, yes.
If I have one, I mean, country music's funny now though because, I mean, I guess I take a lot of issues with the modern country. One thing is, the restaurant that I work at is right by the First Midwest Amphitheater.
Tinley Park.
The old world,
Yeah.
world. the Tweeter
Been
Center,
called a million things since its inception.
and we get the rush before the country concerts, and it's funny to me watching, and it's white people. I'll say it straight, it's white people who like to put on a costume for the show. Girls who would never normally be seen in cowboy hats and Daisy Dukes and boots are in there. Like, this is my look, and a flannel shirt. Like, they got their one country outfit, and they wear it to the Jason Aldean show. They wear it to the Zach Brown Band show.
I'm going to say this, and then we're going to totally ignore that I said this, and we're going to move on. If you were a girl, would you go to Country Thunder?
I would. I thought about going to Country Thunder.
No.
Country,
Not without my chest.
Country Thunder sounds worse than Altamont.
No, I'm thinking of Country Mega Ticket.
I don't even know what that is.
Country Thunder is just like a festival, like a whole all day.
It just sounds like trouble, though.
It does. It
Well,
does.
the songs are all about drinking, partying, and screwing. Like, what do you think they're going to want to do up
I would
there?
not want to camp during that shit. It'd be like a girl in there with my fucking sorority sisters. Like,
It's
oh, this-
Friday the 13th for a weekend. Instead of a hockey mask, it's a cowboy hat. Of course, then all the
bandana across the face.
and all the singers, they don't even wear cowboy hats anymore. They all wear baseball hats real low on their head. I don't know when that became.
Kenny Chesney is balding.
That Zach Brown band wears just a ball cap. Just
And Cheap
just
Trick's
a
opening
ringer
for
cap.
them at Wrigley Field this weekend.
One of the bands that I added to the playlist that I want to take a minute to fucking sing their praises is Big and Rich. And the reason I love Big and
Parody
Rich,
country.
but here's the deal. They were songwriters that wrote songs for the Mavericks.
I want to talk about them in a minute.
Okay, and a couple other acts, and they got sick of writing songs for other people, and they said, "Fuck it, we're gonna fucking have our own band." And they did "Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy." And they also had "Holy Water," which I didn't add to the list. But if you're feeling froggy, check it out.
You can find out more about Big and Rich at your local library.
Trace Adkins kind of got into a little bit of that weird country too. with
But
that.
Big and Rich, their last album was called Hillbilly Jedi. Like their whole shtick is that they tried to form this artist collective with Gretchen Wilson, who they totally wrote all her songs
From downstate Illinois?
Yeah, that is Gretchen Wilson is a product of Big and Rich, and they were these songwriters that like decided, fuck it, we're gonna start a band. They had Cowboy Troy, who was like the black rapper cowboy, and they really tried to do something interesting for a minute with country music, where they tried to bring the freak parade, which is what they called it, element into country music, because country music has this stigma of being stagnant white people fucking music.
I am uncomfortable with the politics sometimes.
And they brought in, although we're going to get to Toby Keith in a minute, they brought in, they tried to introduce diversity, and I really respected that. And the fact that they were also songwriters, because a lot of country music, just like Top 40 or anything else, relies on outside songwriters.
Sure, Max Martin has written every top 40 song that's been released since Britney Spears.
So the other thing that we put on the playlist too is some of the we didn't want to do like the gimmicky songs. All right, I didn't want to do like the Liz Phair country song "Baby Got Going" or anything like that. But we did do. I put in Sun Volt. Okay,
Part of the alternative country music from the mid-90s.
the playlist kicks off with Steve Earle, "The Revolution
That was a
Starts
great tune.
Now,"
That was a
which
great
is
tune.
yeah, it is. Which hello from the fucking Wire.
Yes,
Yes,
I knew that. I knew,
Bubbles Junkie Mentor sponsor, whatever, which is something I heard on XRT, like right before, like I think
I recognized him immediately. Oh, that's Steve Earle, but Steve Earle's one of those guys who's got
That's
his
the 90s.
fingers in everybody's pie.
One of the things that is not on the Spotify playlist that I recommend everybody please go check out is Dead Hot Workshop, which is a band that I've been obsessed with for a long time because they get name dropped in the Refreshments Down Together song, and they were another Tempe, Arizona, when alt country was like almost gonna fucking hit it in the 90s, and Tempe, Arizona was like this hotbed for like, just like Chicago or Minneapolis, and there was Gin Blossoms and there was the Refreshments. Dead Hot Workshop was the one band that should have broken out of there and didn't, and every city has those stories of that band that really deserved it, and they were like the kind of grungy punk country band. And recently all of theirs, and I've been checking Spotify and YouTube for Dead Hot Workshop shit for the longest time, and I'm serious, within the past couple months, Dead Hot Workshop has popped up on YouTube, and you can listen to all their shit. There's like an hour and a half long set from them at Wong's, which was like the big place in Tempe to play. And please check that out if you're into like all country at all. But
You mentioned the Mavericks, who were always one of my favorite bands. I think my ma liked them too. But it's funny because they're labeled as a country band. When I worked at Camelot Music, they were in the country music section. But if you actually listen to any of their tunes, they're more of a retro rock band. But there was no place for them on Top 40 radio, and country music
Jason the Scorchers
adopted them.
Yeah.
And Jason the Scorchers, another great band. You want to talk about alternative country? One of my favorite bands of all time is the Old 97s. But what I always liked about them versus a lot of some of the alt country bands, and they always took stigmas too. If you looked at the way the Old 97s dressed, they dressed like a bunch of college kids. They might as well have been Weezer. They dressed like Weezer. Like they never wanted to be put on the bills with all the hokey cowboy hat, flannel shirt nonsense.
Because they probably wouldn't have been accepted. I don't know. I mean, I have to say this, and this is we're doing kind of a digression here. But one of the things about the Romeros that I thought we always should have done is really fucking gone the alt country route, is because you can write a fucking alt country song.
Thank you.
And some of our best tunes were all country songs. And we live in Chicago, and there's Bloodshot Records, which if you're listening to this and you don't know who the fuck Bloodshot Records is, stop listening to the podcast.
I'm recording this podcast, and I don't know who Bloodshot Records
They're a
is.
Chicago label that specializes in alternative country music and roots rock.
Yes, and they put out some goddamn awesome.
Pat's drinking a warm glass of it. Is it going down better?
Bloodshot Records, Dead Hot Workshop, and Big and Rich.
I think all these bands,
Honky Tonk,
and Toby Keith.
all these bands that he's talking about are made up right now. Those are all made up words. But let's talk about Toby Keith for a moment.
I love him too.
I love him too.
I don't know.
When I finally, I was a bass player for a very long time. I finally went to Target, bought a $40 acoustic guitar. The first song I learned to play was courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith on the guitar. That is the first song I learned to play on the guitar.
Pumps, man.
What do you like about that? What do you like about that song?
It
man?
builds and it moves
It was
forward.
And the
It was
imagery
what
of the
our
Statue of Liberty
Yeah,
shaking her fist.
It was what our
Is that it?
country. It's jingoism at its finest. It's what our country needed at the time, and that is what country music does from time to time. Is that it is very American, and there's not very many music styles that are that overtly
I
American.
mean, do you think that Toby Keith was waiting for something to happen? Or do you think that song was sitting
No,
in
that
someone,
motherfucker-
sitting on a
Did he write that
tape or
song? Are we
CD
100%?
someplace, and they decided to record it when America needed?
When I was in Dead by 30, we wrote a 9/11 song. Like everybody that knew shit about music knew that like you had to come out with a 9/11 song because you were gonna make a shit ton of money. Like, he's a fucking smart dude. And all those songs like Beer for My Horses and I Love This Bar, that's all on Toby Keith's Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Toby
Okay.
Keith has
He
been
wasn't
around
even
since the
had
late
it.
80s.
He was a well-established, albeit he had a perm, but he was a well-established country music artist before that shit happened. And if you want to start with like Toby Keith, you do How Do You Like Me Now, which is a good song about the girl that never would give you the pussy in high school, and now you're a famous musician. And bitch, how do you like me now? All right. And then there's Beer for My Horses, which, let's say, okay, Toby Keith, he eventually did a movie called Beer for My Horses.
With Willie Nelson.
No, not with Tom Skerritt and
No,
fucking.
Willie Nelson shows up at the end. I don't want to spoil
Oh yeah!
the ending.
Spoiler
I don't want
alert!
to spoil alert, but Willie
Spoiler alert.
Nelson shows
And I
up.
won't even try to act like I went into Walmart and bought this because it was $5. No, I went to fucking Best Buy and paid $20 for this.
You didn't
It's one of the
DVR it on
best-
CMT?
It's one of the best '90s actioneers that came out in like 2010. Claire Forlani, the chick
yes.
from Mallrats,
Yes. I
the
know
British
Claire
sounding
Forlani.
because she is British, and she played Sean Connery's daughter in The Rock.
Oh, The Rock. I love The Rock.
It's one of the best like straight to DVD action movies ever. It was so good that like I saw that movie, Beer for My Horses by Toby Keith, and I sat down and I wrote the sequel. Like I wrote the synopsis for the sequel. Like this is what you got to do next. Like
It was
this is
mostly
where the
drawings
story-
on a cocktail napkin.
that was fucked up when I did it. But like
Got the creative juices.
I did. I was like, okay, Toby Keith, I understand what you're doing. This is what the next one's gonna be like. It's gonna go straight to Cinemax.
Sometimes I think about how movies would be turned into video games.
There you go.
How would Beer for Your...
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
It wasn't.
you know-
It wasn't.
We should do a live viewing of that at the Brew Review.
If I knew you guys
At
were
the
going to bring it up, I would have watched it.
You didn't do your research on Toby Keith, who I don't necessarily... I mean, I don't know. His songs are good. Like, again, it's singing about stuff that white people get a kick out of. Whiskey Girl The version,
oh,
the version
yes.
on the podcast that I found, the live version with a full horn section.
It's like a fucking
It makes me
Chicago
love that song. It makes me absolutely love that song because
Yes.
it's just about a girl who likes whiskey, and I get that.
And
I
the horn,
understand.
but the horns like just kick you in the ass.
And they fall right at the right places too. And that's one of the things I want to talk about with country music is that the songs are just good enough, the hooks are just big enough. They're not great, but country music is kind of the new hair metal because little blonde girls like it, and dumb guys go to the shows because they want to meet the little blonde girls.
Well, when you said like it's just good enough, I don't think that country music and this is kind of unfortunate. This is where all country, I feel, succeeds, is that mainstream country music doesn't have a very high bar set for it. It can get away with playing to the tropes, and that's all it really needs to do. And I think that kind of sells it short. I really wish that like country music in Chicago, like US 99, played Bloodshot because it's a Chicago label, and obviously these artists, Nico Case, you know what I mean? Like they give a shit about country. There's only so many people in the room that give a shit about country, and when you get people that give a shit about country, embrace them. And I think that like country is like, listen, I don't think it's cool. This is the point of this segment, and then we can keep going or we can stop. The whole point of the segment is it's no longer cool to say I like music except for country and rap. Because we've all established that there's some important hip-hop shit going on out there. And I think it's time that we all take a pause and say that, you know what? Country ain't that fucking bad either.
It's not that bad, for sure. But let me ask you a question. If you could not stream this, would you have gone out and bought all this music? Either $1.99 iTunes or buying the whole CDs? Or are you able to get more into it because it's more accessible now?
No, I mean, I was into it when it was just on the radio. Like, Dixie Chicks, like, okay, a perfect example. Me First and Gimme Gimmes did, and this is where we kind of got the title for our playlist called The Strike Team Loves Their Country. Me First and the Gimme Gimmes did obviously they were a punk rock cover band. They did an album called Me First and the Gimme Gimmes Love Their Country. And that had just come out when I was DJing a lot at Liars Club and Clubfoot and fucking, what was the other, Club Crave, and all those other places.
The bar for those who practice alternative life.
Yes. And I would always play their version of Goodbye Earl. You know what I mean? Like that, and Eastbound and Down, which is from the Smoking the Bandit soundtrack.
And you want to talk about being uncomfortable with country politics. I mean, I watched that documentary about the Dixie Chicks that focused on their time when they badmouthed George W. Bush, and the way the fans turned on them. Like, even if they liked their music, even if they still liked their music, because they disagreed with something that the American president did, that threw people into a tizzy.
I think country music is a legitimate fucking genre of music that is bogged down by having really fucking stupid fans.
I would agree.
That's what it comes down to.
I think that's fair.
I like the twang. I like the subject matter. I like the aesthetic. I like the way they run their fucking show. You hate the fans because it's very middle of the road. It's very easy.
What music has smart fans that you are comparing these stupid
Prog rock?
fans
Pretty much prog rock.
Yeah, I mean, that's Rush. I don't know.
Guys who like Rush are usually pretty brainy. No, country
Or
fans.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Country fans
Or by
are-
a craft work.
US 99 is a top 40 station. They just play top 40 country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you hear. I bet you that if you were to listen to it all day long, there wouldn't be more than 60 songs you heard played.
I hate to be a wet blanket, guys, but I need more vodka.
Well, how about we take...
Although I will say this, if you're going to check out...
This was Pat's turn to bring the vodka, and he did
Motherfucker,
not.
you told me not to.
Yeah, well, I didn't think you'd be sucking
He's only
it down
three in.
like you are now.
He's only three in. He's only
All right,
three
I
in.
got to say
One
this.
more.
All right, songs that you need to check out for the playlist.
No, we're not done with this. We're not done
Friends
with
in
this.
Low Places. Wait, what was the one?
Pardon me for a moment. Let's just say that Chris Gaines, going back to our earlier podcast, if Garth Brooks came out with Chris Gaines today, country music would eat that stuff up.
Mike Vanderbilt putting "Always on My Mind" by Willie Nelson on that.
Although I prefer Elvis's version.
No.
I like Willie's, but I prefer Elvis's.
You know, I didn't get to add any songs to
You
the
could've.
Spotify
You-
playlist.
I was thinking-
Relax.
I thought,
It's-
here's the thing. I figured, like, okay, Pat was going to do the top 40 country shit. Pat was going to do the Big and Rich. Pat was going to do Toby Keith. Pat was going to do the Gretchen Wilson and the fucking Kenny Chesney. Mike was going to do the old 97s and the Nego Case and the Ryan Adams. And then fucking Dan was going to come in and do the Before He Cheats, whoever the fuck that bitch is. And then...
That was the
I never
American
said
Idol
that.
girl, wasn't it?
No.
That's Carrie Underwood?
Carrie
Yeah.
Underwood.
No.
Dan was going to do Carrie Underwood and Taylor Swift. I figured that between the three of us, we would have really like a very good
I have a
vortex.
I enjoyed focusing on the top 40 country because it's stuff that I hear at work and it's stuff I hear in passing. And sitting down and actually listening to it versus listening to Too Far to Care, which I've heard 1,000,001 times, was different.
The
Listen
top
to
40
Million two
that we've been
times. Fucking
talking
too
about
far
is
there.
the top 40 from 10, 15 years ago. I enjoy some of the more recent stuff that you actually hear on the radio, like this song called Beachin' by Jake Owen.
Why isn't that on the playlist?
Because I couldn't add it to the playlist. Like, I was driving home and I just...
Oh, Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh,
You want to talk
Hootie.
about? You want to talk about like the
Hootie
TikToks?
got rogue!
Like, Hootie's like, I'm gonna make some money.
I'm going to do a Burger King commercial.
Chicken Fried Zach Brown Band. I know. I'm looking at Dan Lynch's, obviously his country playlist right here.
That is not added to the master country.
Chicken Fried Zach. I don't know.
It'll get added. But what I'm saying is that these newer songs are the ones that I got into. How many people don't like Garth Brooks? I mean,
People
people respect him.
my Twitter was lighting up this weekend with weirdos that I know that were going to the Garth
We
Brooks
talked
show.
about.
I wish we went.
I looked at tickets. We couldn't get 2 seats together.
Exactly.
I'm not
we
going-
honestly did. After the first podcast where I brought it up, Dan Lynch did.
And I was not going to StubHub to
No,
pay their prices
I
to
agree.
see Garth Brooks. I mean,
I'd rather, if I was sitting with you guys, I'd enjoy
the
it.
three of us sitting together would have happened, but I'm not going to sit.
We would all put on our flannel shirts and our cowboy, or no,
I mean,
my shirt that's black on one side and blue on the other.
I got a party shirt.
Kelly, what's her name?
Chesney?
No, the one that does.
Pickler? Carrie Underwood?
Since you've been gone.
Kelly
Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson got up there and did music with him
Really?
this week. Yeah, oh, that was the big thing on WGN, is that Kelly Clarkson was at the Garth Brooks concert. Were you there? I don't know. Robin Baumgarten wasn't there, so give a fuck. That, and honestly, that is the whole reason I've agreed to participate in Mike and Dan's podcast, is so that one day, hopefully, get to hook up with fucking Robin Baumgarten.
Well, I'm hoping
The
that
WGN will pick up anything, so they might pick up this podcast.
like this is our first step in taking over Howard Stern's spot. Like in 10 years from now, we are going to be on Sirius, setting the standard. And it starts here.
Heard it here.
Someone
You
put
heard it here first, folks.
Someone put acid in
Get it.
No, they'll put vodka in Dan's vodka. That's the vodka talking.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook.
We do that at the end of the show.
Let him do it now so we can take a break and talk
This
about
is
something
the end of
else.
the show.
My drink is empty.
We're at the 46-minute mark.
All right. Still got to do Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we're gonna cut this up. We're gonna make it 2 podcasts.
gonna take a break. We're gonna fill up our drinks, and we'll be right back.
Find yourself caught up in a silly game. That's child's play. Don't play me out. The world depends on every little move we make. It's serious, cold serious. Now the time has come for all good to glow and overthrow the bad. We're here to make a change so all can be free. A call has been made and we're back. Oh, we're back. We're back to fight the evil. We will never deceive you. We're back.
And we're back. 30 years ago this summer, Ghostbusters was released into movie theaters across the nation. And to celebrate that, a newly remastered 4K version of Ghostbusters was released in theaters. And we're going to talk a little bit about Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters phenomenon. Dan?
I was never a real big fan of Ghostbusters as a comedy. As a family film, I enjoyed it. I watched it a lot as a child, but I did not get all the jokes. So I recently took the opportunity to go see it with a couple of fans with a fresh set of eyes to see if maybe I was missing something. Maybe the movie is just overly quotable, or maybe there was some sort of underlying comedic that I missed. That maybe I was a kid, I'm an adult now. It's not the first time that's happened. So I went to see it at my local theater, and it was the same movie that I remember. I found it a little bit more funny, well, that's because I wanted to laugh. I was paying a little bit more attention to the actual dialogue to see if it was like overly quotable, like let's say Super Troopers is, and I didn't notice it. There was some, and then there was some jokes and some background gags that I didn't catch the first time I seen it, but I don't consider this movie a comedy. Okay? That doesn't take away from its pop culture appeal, and it doesn't take anything away from the movie. It's just, I wouldn't choose to watch it if I was looking for a comedy. I would choose other 80s films.
Dan Lynch is gesturing very apologetically for those of you who are not.
Sometimes I use gestures to get my words across.
We just want the audience at home to know what's actually going on in the kitchen right now. Pat, what do you have to say about Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters is the most important movie that I've ever seen as a fucking filmmaker. And I use the filmmaker term loosely, but fuck it. I've made a bunch of movies. I have an IMDb page. I'm going to fucking say that. I'm a filmmaker, and I hinge everything that I've done on Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters was a movie that I watched, I had a tape of as a kid. And just like kids watch Barney and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and whatever stupid shit that they watch fucking relentlessly. Frozen.
Was it just Ghostbusters on the tape, or
Were
was
you
it a tape with a bunch of...
The tape was Ghostbusters, Jaws, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Ghostbusters, I didn't realize it at the time, but it shaped the way that I viewed storytelling. Because Ghostbusters is a genre mash, unlike any other. It's a comedy. It's at times a horror movie. There's a bear in the apartment. And, I mean, it's fucking kind of scary at times, but it just all fucking comes together in this weird amalgamation, and you don't ask any questions, and you just fucking... It is pure cinema, because it's just something that you sit down, and then it starts, and then you go through this experience, and then it's over. And you know what, Dan? I love that you don't see it like that, because it makes the fact that I see it like that all that much more special to me. And that's cool. And that's
I'm not
cool.
taking anything away from the
No.
movie.
I didn't take that as an attack. I'm just saying.
I took this 30th release as a chance to see it with some fresh eyes.
Ghostbusters is like that is what when I look at like because I mean like seriously like I sit down and I try to fucking make movies like that is what I've been trying to do this whole entire time is to tell this story that's funny, that's scary, that's a quasi love story. Not really. I mean, it's this dude that you know is going to get the girl at the end, and he's kind of a dick, and he's like, you know what I mean? Like he's not this John Wayne hero type. He's very smarmy, but still, like that is what the romantic lead should be. And Sigourney Weaver, like this hot chick that you're going to get, and like she's kind of going to go with this violinist dude, and he's like, no, I'm fucking Bill Murray. Like you're going to go with me. And he shows up for his apartment with Thorazine in his pocket because that's how he rolls. And like, it's, you know, and that is why the franchise has enjoyed the success that it has. And I know I'm skipping all over the place right now, but fucking I'm on a roll. Like with the cartoon, that's the reason why you could take this movie that was just supposed to be this movie, and you could do a cartoon for 140 episodes. You know what I mean? That's why, and granted, Ghostbusters 2 is kind of a fucking shit show. I thought the video game was fucking excellent. And whatever the movie's going to be, I mean, you know I'm going to be there for part 3. Like, whatever it ends up being. If it's girls, if it's fucking however they do it.
The only reason Bill Murray wants it to be all girls is because Bill Murray's not a girl.
He's trying to tap out.
He would not have to be involved in it at all. I've loved Ghostbusters from the first time that I saw it. I was trying to talk to my folks because I know that we went to see it at the show at Chicago Ridge Theaters, but 84.
Ridge or the Commons?
It was over there somewhere. I couldn't tell you.
I remember seeing part 2. I remember sitting through part 2 twice in one day, but I don't remember seeing part 1.
Part 1, I was young, and I asked my folks, I go, how would you guys have gotten me to see it? Because I knew they liked SNL and SCTV, so maybe it was because of that. No, it was because they were at a block party one summer, and some girl was drunk talking about how good Ghostbusters was. So they decided to take me to see it. So it was either 84, but then I found out that they re-released the movie in 85. So it was either 84 or 85 I saw the show. The librarian ghost scared the shit out of me, but my mom said I was hooked for the rest of the movie. And then I had a tape. I had 2 tapes that I watched incessantly when I was a kid. I don't know what was on which tapes, but there were 6 movies. It was Ghostbusters, Teen Wolf, Back to the Future, Short Circuit, Last Starfighter, and Gremlins. So those were the 6 movies that I watched incessantly when I was a kid. And I remember having my dad make me a ghost trap out of a cardboard box and some copper wire that said it had some caution tape on the side. And I was drinking the Ghostbusters Kool-Aid from the beginning, and I absolutely
Ecto Cooler?
Ecto Cooler. Let's talk about that in a minute. That was long before Ecto Cooler, and I remember seeing the second one at Evergreen Plaza, last day of school, 1989. And
I knew Ghostbusters 2 was shit when I saw it.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, I know
It's a shot-for-shot remake of the original movie.
I didn't
Most
like
people
the
don't realize
painting.
it.
I didn't like the slime cannons. The Statue of Liberty with that song, like that was kind of okay, but like I kind of even knew back then like Ghostbusters 2 was shit. And one of the things that Mike asked us to do for this segment was to watch the animated series. And I'll have to, and the link that you sent us was the Collect Call Cthulhu, which I got to say this, I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan, and I got into that shit like in the mid '90s, and that was just because of Metallica, because Metallica had an instrumental track on Ride of Lightning, which was called Cthulhu. The H.P. Lovecraft like love that you see today was not there back then,
Because that was 1986 when the show premiered.
The fact that they did that back then was fucking awesome, and they nailed it note for note, and they incorporated a lot of things from the mythos that like today we take as commonplace, but like the fact that they included it back then
in a kids show
was very forward thinking and was very like. And here's the thing:
cartoons used to not be aired in prime time. Some of our listeners might not know this, but cartoons used to be aired on Saturday morning, and they were aimed towards children, not towards adults.
But I will say this is that I watched that one, and I thought it was really good for like a solid like 23-minute thing, and then I watched another Ghostbusters episode. It was complete shit. It was like they were on bikes and it was someone's birthday or some shit. It was fucking stupid. So like I would say like go check out the animated series, but before you do, go on a website and like look up what are the top 10 fan rated Ghostbusters episodes.
Well, there's 7 seasons of it. There's good.
There are 140 episodes. Yeah. It's like don't try to binge watch this shit.
I got the box set and I got through like the first 3 discs.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's a lot to take in.
Go on. There's some list on some website somewhere. Go on it. Find out what the top 10 best episodes are, and then just go on YouTube, which they're all on YouTube.
Yeah,
and just cherry pick, and just watch those episodes. And I guarantee you, any 3 episodes out of those top 10 that you watch will be better than Ghostbusters 2.
Any of the Boogeyman episodes were great. Because there was a weird serialization to the show where they would bring back characters. There was the Boogeyman. There was Sam Hain, the spirit of Halloween. There's an excellent episode called The Grundle. And another great episode is Citizen Ghost, which ties in how everything happened from the Ghostbusters movie to the animated series.
The video game connects. I will say this though, the video game is really fucking good.
The first person shooter one?
No, the one where you drive around in a shitty car.
No, fuck that.
Top scroller.
Trying to earn money. No, that was horrible.
Like that paper.
No, the Xbox 360 video game that came out a couple years ago.
I heard that Ernie Hudson's kids actually told him that the Ghostbusters, the original game, the top scroller type where you earn money, was awful, and he should not have been part of that.
Well, that was bad. No, but the Xbox 360 one is actually, it bridges the gap between the first and second movie and made me go back and watch the second movie because it does such a good job explaining of how the painting of fucking Vigo the Caribbean.
You want the buzzing of bias to him.
It all ties in together. The video game does a really good job of melding the first movie and the second movie, and it made me want to go back and watch the second movie, and I kind of made my peace with it. I like
the second movie. Shot for shot remake of the first, but there's some good lines. It ain't great, but it's pretty good.
The video game has a very, very, very good line where they're driving. You're in between like a mission, and you're driving towards like this fucking happening, and Ernie Hudson's character says to Peter Venkman, there's all these people running away, like from like this horrible thing that's going on, and Ernie Hudson's character goes, don't you ever wish that we were the people running away from the catastrophe instead of driving towards it? And Peter Venkman's like, well, what fun would that be? And I just thought that was like, if you get nothing else from the video game, like that was such a great character moment.
The Peter Venkman in the cartoon made a lot more sense to me because he was actually kind of a good-looking cat, and he was kind of
And
smart.
Ray was like,
Ray was the heavy-set dork with red hair, but like Malamar said that I would think that a ladies' man would look like Peter Venkman in a cartoon and sound like Garfield.
yeah.
And then my parents bought me all the toys. I still remember the day I came home, my parents had bought me most of the first wave of toys.
You want to know something fucking horrible? My mom tried to do the same thing for me, but you know what she bought me?
Oh! The Filmation Ghostbusters!
Yes! That was a gorilla!
The gorilla!
And the shit that didn't make any
And the
fucking sense.
C-3PO fucking skeleton.
And it was Christmas, and I opened up my fucking presents. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And you can't be a dick because you're a kid. You know, you're like, oh, Santa just did what he did. But it was like, yes, because there was a Ghostbusters series in the 50s.
70s.
70s.
It was in the 70s, and that's where because when they were shooting the Ghostbusters movie, they would be doing 2 takes where people were chanting Ghostbusters, 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 and Ghostbreakers, 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 because Ghostbreakers was going to be the name of the movie if they couldn't get the rights to the term Ghostbusters from the 70s Filmation series. And eventually the producer, I want to talk about it in a minute because
Talk about it right now, dude. You're on the roll.
he called the Columbia and said, look, Ghostbusters sounds better. You need to have Ghostbusters. And this producer that also worked on the animated series was one of Ivan Reitman's buddies who also worked on Heavy Metal, which is the reason that the animated series is as good as it is.
And I just did the sign of the cross when he mentioned Heavy Metal.
All those Canadians. But yeah, so that's where the Ghostbusters name came from, because originally it was titled Ghostbreakers. And
Talking about stuff you didn't know you needed to know about.
so I do enjoy.
Right there. We're doing the 180 now.
I do enjoy the Ghostbusters. Dan, did you watch the cartoon? Did you have the toys when you were a kid?
Yes, and I remember having the Firehouse playset.
Oh, the Firehouse playset. People, when I tell people I had that, and when I tell them I still have it at my parents' house, they go nuts. That thing was awesome. Although my parents always hid the ectoplasm on me because they didn't want it all over everything. Yeah, no, yours didn't come with it. But I saw it in the commercial. No. Yours didn't come with it.
I had a He-Man playset that also had that.
The Hordak.
Yeah.
It was the evil horde. It was She-Ra's villains.
That they didn't want. My parents didn't want me having. So
The goo.
it was.
No,
Yours was big in the 80s.
I remember getting the goo. But, you know, back to Ghostbusters. You know, I went, the original movie. I don't know if you guys have seen The Watch. Have you watched that at all?
I mentioned it to Dan because I wanted to watch it before the podcast because it looked like it was trying to be
Yes.
Ghostbusters.
Yes. You know what? It's Ben Stiller. It's
Vince Vaughn.
Jonah Hill, and then
That
the
guy,
dude
the
from
English guy,
IT.
the English guy who everybody who's cool likes to tell you that they like.
Yes. So I watched this movie, and it's not a great movie, but they try so. It's written by Seth Rogen, and which one of the things that made me love Seth Rogen is that Seth Rogen has said in interviews before is that what his dream projects to write, because obviously he's a writer and a actor, but one of his dream projects to write is science fiction, horror, stuff like that. But Judd Apatow kept pushing him into comedy. He's like, no, you're too funny. Don't do science fiction. Don't do horror. You're too funny. Just do comedy. And Seth Rogen would love nothing more than to do a Ghostbusters type movie because it was so huge for him. And he got the chance to do a rewrite on The Watch. So I was like, okay, well, I appreciate someone with that passion for the fucking franchise. Watch The Watch. The Watch is not bad as long as when you're watching it, you realize that, like, they're trying to do Ghostbusters. And that just the mere fact that they're trying to crib Ghostbusters will make you be able to sit through the movie for an hour and a half and still
When I
enjoy
saw
it.
the commercials, I figured that's what it was doing.
It's not great, but it's like an hour and a half of people trying to do Ghostbusters.
But it looked like a bunch of people making fun of each other. One thing I like about Ghostbusters, there's a couple things I think that sell Ghostbusters, which make Ghostbusters.
Genre mashing.
All the characters seem to genuinely like each other, and you get that vibe off of. I mean, because it's Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis because they've hung around with each other for so long, and Good for Ernie Hudson, the luckiest man in the world.
He's the dude that still goes to the conventions and takes pictures with fucking goofs.
Yeah, he is so. He auditioned for the part of Winston on the cartoon, and they said no. Arsenio Hall.
Arsenio Hall, yeah.
is better than you. We're not going to pay you to do that. Arsenio Hall is going to come and do that. And the NAACP took issue with Ghostbusters when it was originally released on DVD, because Ghostbusters is a perfect example of when a movie's shot in 235:1 scope, why you need to see something widescreen, which is why I was so excited when the DVD came out in 1999, which was also loaded with extras. I don't know if people know how many
They had the
scenes were shot.
MST3K version.
Yeah, but how much footage was shot for that movie that was cut out, and it's all on this DVD from 1999. But the NAACP took issue because you have 4 Ghostbusters on the screen. It's pan and scan. Ernie Hudson was always the one that was cut out. Ernie Hudson didn't care because Ernie Hudson was getting paid no matter what. But the NAACP took issue with it. But the Ghostbusters all seem to get along with each other and like each other. And like you said with the genre matching is, the special effects are fantastic. The special effects are never meant to be in a joking fashion. The terror dogs are seriously scary.
It's a bear.
The librarian. My favorite line from Ghostbusters is when, after the Keymaster or Vince Clortho, Rick Moranis talks to the horse, and the horse guy is like, hey, he pulls the card out there, right, and he growls at him. What an asshole! That's funny to me. But the special effects are great. The characters are great. And one thing I remember reading that they tried to do was make the characters dress timeless, so it never looked dated. And Ghostbusters really doesn't. Like, it feels 80s because we know it was shot in the 80s.
Because of the music.
But it's not dated. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie, Mike Tucker and I always talked about, was when it's one of the rare serious parts in the movie where Ray and Winston are talking religion.
And they're
in
drinking
the car. And I made
drinking while they're driving.
And they're all smoking. The smoking in Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Everybody is smoking in Ghostbusters.
Yes. No, that was the fucking Rosetta Stone. That, for me, that was, I can never, words will never accurately, I can only hope that through my work that I fucking show up, but like, that was.
So, let me ask a question.
Alright.
Alright, and Back to the Future.
Fuck Back to the Future.
I like Back to the Future.
Okay. Is it a comedy?
Yeah.
Or is it an action?
Well,
is it a family adventure?
I see where you're going. Ghostbusters would not be in the comedy section of your local video store when those still existed.
You know what?
If it wasn't for the talent involved.
Back to the Future, because, okay, you're talking about movies from the same era. Back to the Future never held my interest because there were not giant fucking dogs. There were not. I'm a horror person. And it's like, as much as, like, you can talk about all this other shit, but it's like, I identify with horror movies. Horror movies have always been something that is just kind of like, it's just something about me. And being a horror movie person, Back to the Future does a good job of blending genres. However, Ghostbusters blends them in a way that makes sense to me. And, like, it's one of those things where, like, you don't dig Ghostbusters, that's fine. You dig Back to the Future, that's fine too.
Well, here's my take on it, is that I don't really like Peter Venkman in the movie.
How can you not like Bill Murray?
I'm just telling
Don't
you.
you want to be him?
No.
What the fuck?
I don't identify with him. I don't like him.
But he's a dick and he's smart.
Yeah, but I don't like.
He never studied.
That's not what I get.
No study.
I don't like that. And Egon.
Because you want to study.
Stans are kind of like secondary characters in it.
No.
So you're mad because
Stans
you're Egon. You're mad because you're Egon and you
want a mortgage on his fucking grandpa's house for the fucking firehouse.
He was born there.
He was born there.
There's more. They spent more money than they got with this 3 mortgages. I mean, that's just.
The neighborhood.
I'm not questioning the logic of the movie. Okay, all I'm saying is, I don't identify with it as much as you do.
Well, because you're mad because Egon didn't. Because you're the Egon. You're Egon.
I didn't identify it. It's just that, like, that was such.
And whatever Pat wants to think, he's Ray Stantz.
He's smart. No, it wasn't even that I identified with it. It's just that, like, I was at a very impressionable age in my life, and that was what movies were to me. Is that this was a movie that I was, potentially overexposed to. But this was a movie that I watched a lot as a kid.
Me too.
And it shaped the way that I looked at movies moving forward in my life. And when I think of movies now, when I think of, like, how a story can be told and, like, what a movie is, I think of Ghostbusters. And I think of the fact that you can be scary, you can be funny, you can have characters that talk shit.
I look at it differently.
When like giant dogs are coming at them and they got fucking ray guns on their back and they're like, "Fuck you!" Like there's a very big anarchist fucking slant to that movie. That's like, these guys don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? They're fucking badasses. Like you know what I mean? Like, they're funny, they laugh at danger, and they break all the rules. You know what I mean? And I can identify with that, and I love that.
And he looked cool doing it. The outfits, the costuming was great.
Suck in the guts, boys. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
2, though. You don't like 2. That's a quote from 2.
2 is fucking stupid.
2 has. Actually, I think people quote 2 more than they do the original.
I'd say we should fucking draw a graph for that.
I think that's a good one. That's a good one, because I think more people quote 2 than they quote the first one.
I think Mike's fucking drunk and talking nonsense.
I think you're drunk. And how many is that for? You're gonna start. Are we coming up on a? We're gonna do an outro so that Pat can tell Dan when he goes out. We'll come back to Ghostbusters eventually, but we're gonna take a break right now. So
all right,
we'll be back. We're here to wrap things up. Pat, what do you got going on?
Annie Potts. We didn't talk about it in the Ghostbusters segment. She is so fucking hot. She is the pinnacle of what I've judged every woman on based ever since, and she's fucking beautiful.
You know, she was cute in the first one, but she got hotter in the second one. But that's because they made her look like the cartoon character.
I like her cartoon character girls too.
You know, she looked good in the cartoon too. I'm going to say it. Like, she's right up there with Betty Rubble.
What about Jessica Rabbit?
Jessica Rabbit. Everybody likes Jessica Rabbit. No, give me Kim Possible. Kim Possible.
I do like Kim Possible. I do like my girls who live in spying them.
She goes on.
Because they are anyway.
They are. They're going to go through your phone. They're going to go there. Don't leave that thing on unlocked, man.
So, I do not have anything to promote this week, although stay tuned for next week because I will have major fucking announcements to make. So I'm past this week. Back to you, Mike.
Dan Lynch, what do you got?
My fantasy teams did not do so well this week. I lost all but one league.
Did you have that dude?
Zach Stacy.
The elevator guy?
No, Reggie. That was Ray Rice. No, I did not have him.
He's been around for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's.
I mean, he's played for at least 10 years.
No, he was drafted in, I think, 2008.
Oh, I feel like I heard the name a lot.
Zach Stacy is the one who let me down this week.
Or Zach Stacy.
What about you, Mike?
I will. Well, by the time this show airs, I guess I can announce this: is that I'm playing Liars Club Sunday, September 14th, at a Riot Fest after party with a super secret headliner who will have been Local H, who I've played with several times before in my days in the Romeros. I just won't mention Friday the 13th to Scott Lucas because he disagrees with me on what I feel about that movie.
Fuck him. The official stance of the Strike Team Drinks on Monday podcast is fuck Scott Lucas.
Hey. He does. I like Friday the 13th.
You know what? He's going to tweet this out, and we're going to be done.
Oh, because he's going to listen to the whole thing. Because he's going to listen to the whole fucking podcast.
He sees every fucking
movie. We can say anything we want about Scott Lucas right now, and no one will fucking call us on it.
Hey, you know what? I like dude.
I like it. I like the
kind of a jerk, but I like his music.
I like his music, too.
He disagrees with me on Friday the 13th.
But at least he gives a shit.
He did talk to me about it.
At least there was a conversation. No, I like Scott Lucas.
So I also talked to him about Texas Chainsaw Massacre for a minute. He didn't respond or anything, but I saw that new 4K transfer of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the McHenry Drive-In. last week, and the transfer is amazing. I popped in my Blu-ray or my DVD from 01, and they really cleaned it up. Like it's like watching a different movie. It's awesome. And then
Did
Sunday,
you see Blood on
September.
the Hook this time?
Which one?
Blood on the Hook?
I don't
Never
know.
mind. Anyway, go on.
Sunday, September 21st, I'll be playing one of my favorite venues, the Red Line Tap. I'll be opening for the Vibrators with this new band I'm in, the Modern Day Rippers.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, so
That's it. Let's do it.
We had a good show.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Hour
the
12.
bottle of vodka's fucking gone.
We're headed out to the bar. Thank y'all for listening. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Enjoy yourself, gentlemen.
I got a time bomb in my mind.